Hello and good morning. Welcome to the KCD Art Review, where we analyze popular literature in a slightly more unconventional way.
Today, we'll be looking at the ever-popular Bonfire of the Vanities by Tom Wolfe and the unravelling tale of self-appointed Master of the Universe, Sherman McCoy, and his descent from a lion to a cat.
Meow. We worked with Luke's three dimensions of power and Max Weber's pluralistic model of competition to look at the web of identity, insecurity, inequality, and power. So now, let's watch.
So, already here, we are seeing some identity and insecurity issues arising. Firstly, Sherman is made insecure by the story circulating in the city life. Here, an identity is created by him, by the media, and it's socially constructed through the judgment and valuation of others. As a natural instinct, does he want to protect himself from this identity that's created for him that he does not agree with? And he creates a position for himself where he believes himself to be more secure, and he sees this window of opportunity. The window of opportunity is made possible through the potent power of institutionalized corruption. He realizes that he can do so by explicitly exercising power over Quigley and Killian, by implicitly implying tampering with evidence, so the case will work in his favor. And he does this by having an implicit conversation. Quigley and Killian are also made insecure in two ways. Number one, by their identity as keepers of the law, and number two, in relation to Sherman, as he exercises power over them. They have become insecure in their identities. They therefore agree to collaborate as they become allured by a position which appears more secure, as they will have a better chance of winning the case, even though this is at the cost of moral order. This can be seen in wider context of the society they live in. New York in the 1980s were characterized by heavy free market capitalism, where success were to be reached at any cost, moral or social, and corruption therefore seeps through society, as we will see further on.
In the second part, the main themes that we're going to be exploring are identity and insecurity. Sherman is having deep identity realizations about himself, as identity is ephemeral. It comes and goes and is constantly evolving. It's never static. Illustrative of this is when Sherman says, "I'm not Sherman McCoy anymore. I'm somebody else without a proper name. I've been that other person ever since the day I was arrested." Sherman's identity evolved throughout this whole case, and he is starting to reject his old identity. This is portrayed through the fact that we are responsible for what we become. Sherman realizes this when he says, "I'm only kidding myself, and I've stopped kidding myself." To add to this idea, the idea that identity can come as a burden seems relevant. When freedom is realized, it becomes difficult to escape the desire to escape. That is to say, that Sherman, once he has realized that he is no longer a previous version of himself, has a deep urge to escape his old identity, his old self. This can also be seen when Sherman says, "I'm somebody else, I have nothing to do with Wall Street." He then relates to a different, lower class. This conveys his background, education, brought him success, which brings in Weber's pluralized model. And this can be summed up by a quote in Management Lives, or Management Lives, however you want to say it. An alternative response to failure is to seek to protect oneself from the reality of a lack of success and the indignity of subordination. This can be done through mentally distancing oneself from or acting indifferently towards the situations of everyday life, pretending that an inner identity, a private self through which we really live our lives, is thereby preserved. Cheers.
Here, after part 3, we have seen Sherman use the metaphor of the dog who is willing and ready to bear its fangs and fight. We see here that Sherman automatically assumes the role of the alpha male, and by using the dog metaphor to show his power and the strength that can be associated with primal instinct and the fight or flight attitude that is often seen in a dog's aggression. Sherman McCoy has now spiralled into a new world, one where the dog-eat-dog analogy is very prevalent, therefore showing the precariousness of social status that it reflects. His status as master of the universe cannot be sustained as it once previously was, prior to that pivotal night in the Bronx, and so Sherman has to adapt and evolve his sense of identity, as David has previously mentioned, in order to survive the onslaught that is to come, therefore taking the position of the vicious dog, which we have come to associate with the notion of an alpha male. The alpha male can often be identified with a powerful, courageous, driven, fearless man who is willing to take on whatever stands in the way of his life's path. We believe that these are notable characteristics of Sherman McCoy's personality. He believes that once he takes on the role of the dog, he will be ready and powerful enough to take on the issues at hand. Sherman is able to manipulate the case because he has now got the knowledge of the corruption and the underbelly of the system, so to speak. Sherman is, in a way, overthrowing his rulers and those who determine his fate by pretending that he recorded the tape and therefore making it admissible in court. Sherman has shown that he is turning into the dog and is ready and willing to fight.
So now we're going to tie everything together by utilising Luke's 3 dimensions of power and Weber's pluralistic model. As we all know, Luke's 3 faces of power say that power can be exercised in 3 different ways: decision-making, non-decision-making, and ideological power. So the first one, decision-making power, is when power is exercised to secure a decision in situations where there is observable conflict or disagreement. In this case, Sherman commands his loyals to subordinate him and support his case. He does this through his power and charisma. This ties into the second dimension, whereby it says that power is exercised to keep issues on or off the decision-making agenda, so that potential conflicts or disagreements are precluded and therefore unobservable. So we can notice this when Sherman rhetorically asks Quigley as to how he might have produced the recording of the tape. This is important in terms of sub-communication and implicit conversation. Sherman's charisma and social skills, which come from his social status and the fact that he was a Bond salesman, facilitates this process of power and makes the attorneys agree with him, even though he doesn't explicitly say, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's all implicit.
So, and then we have the third dimension of power. And this is when institutionalized power is exercised to define a social reality. So this is to the extent that norms and meanings become internalized constructed by the individuals or the groups that exercise this power. And they thereby invent the definition of reality, even if this is against their real interests. We see this exercise of power in 2 ways. Firstly, by the media, as they create and define a reality with Sherman's identity. And secondly, we see Sherman trying to create and construct a reality where he's the victim of Maria's recklessness and manipulation. This is further a reality where Sherman has realized his true identity, yet this is paradoxical as he renders himself way more vulnerable by thinking that he is more stable. And he tries to control institutionalized power in his own favor by altering the case material in a way that's not compatible with the law. And he tries to construct a reality based upon a false identity, even though he thinks it's true, creating a paradox. But as we all know, there are some problems with Luke's 3-dimensional power. It assumes that they're real interests and that these are stable. However, we can see that this is contestable. As we all know, Sherman is a self-appointed master of the universe, and he's been preoccupied with success in terms of social status, in terms of wealth, in terms of material possessions. Yet, through what we've just seen, we see him move away from the succession, and he somehow moves into a new one that he's in this dog-eat-dog world, as we talked about earlier, and he's down there, whatever that means.
Pluralistic model was developed by Weber and is a model of competition for society, material and symbolic resources where inequality prevails. It also talks about wealth and power and social standing and how they reflect on people's positions today. So with regard to the book, Bonfire of the Vanities, Sherman's riches and social standing allow him access to the lawyers and investigators, as we see in Killian and Quigley, who are willing and happy to participate in corruption, such as the manipulation of evidence that we see in the excerpt, and how the tape is becoming admissible in court, when actually it was quite illegal. The pluralistic model demonstrates how Sherman's wealth and power, alongside his family background and education, have allowed him to be in such a position of manipulation and corroboration, which also displays the widespread use of corruption and block mobility. As Management Live states, power is often exercised in illegitimate and corrupt ways, yet behind all the sensationalism and glamour, block mobility is still extremely prevalent. Sherman believes himself to be successful as a result of his abilities, and this seeps through in his attempt at tampering with the evidence in terms of the tape. This manipulates the situations to one he can manage and he is in control with. Corruption is a direct and unbridled expression of his ambition, as Management Live states. The desire, envy, greed and immorality are all ways of life, and this justifies Sherman's behaviour and the way he acts when he is down there, so to speak. Another quote from Management Lives is the espoused intent of the hidden hand of free market capitalism is to produce beneficial effects for all who participate in it. Success at any cost comes with displacement of the moral and social order, which is quite clearly seen in Bonfire of the Vanities. We thank you all very much for listening, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.